Welcome to Red-tastic. Story 1. Am I the a-hole for not letting my aunt and uncle, biological parents, call themselves grandparents? The version without names was really confusing, so I will call my biological parents John and Jane, and my adoptive parents Richard and Rose. When John and Jane were in university, Jane got pregnant with me. They couldn't keep me, so Jane turned to my grandparents for help. My grandparents then suggested she talk to her older sister, Rose. Rose and her husband, Richard, already had 2 kids. They were planning on 3, but Rose had complications while having the first child, my sister. So they adopted my brother, and then they adopted me too. They have never hidden that I'm adopted. I feel about John and Jane the same way my brother feels about his biological mom. He had an open adoption, so he also grew up knowing he was adopted, and saw his biological mom with the same frequency I saw John and Jane. And we sort of acknowledge the relation, but in our eyes, Richard and Rose are our parents. When I was 12 or 13, Jane and John had their next child, and 2 more after that, who I view as my siblings. And seeing this, Jane and John asked me to call them Mom and Dad and asked if I wanted to live with them. I told them to get effed. When I married my husband, I had a massive argument with John and Jane. I wanted Richard to walk me down the aisle, but John felt he should be the one to do it, and Jane wanted to help as the mother of the bride. It escalated from there, and ultimately I told John and Jane that they could attend the wedding as guests. Nothing more, and if they behaved themselves, then we could continue to have a relationship. They came, they played nice, no issues. 6 months ago, I had a baby. Richard and Rose have visited, met their granddaughter and my grandparents. Rose and Jane's parents have also visited, but we have not let extended family, including John and Jane, visit yet. They came over for the first time today. John and my husband went into the kitchen, and Jane rushed over to the crib and introduced herself to my daughter as Nanny. I say that Rose is a nanny. Jane gets visibly annoyed and then smiled and goes, "Nana it is, then." I say, "You're not her Nana, you're her great aunt." Jane says she's my mother, meaning that's a granddaughter. I say Jane is my aunt, that's a great niece. At this point, our voices are raised, but not a full-on screaming match, and my daughter starts to cry. John comes in asking how his favorite granddaughter is doing, and I have the same exchange with him as I did with Jane. They get upset and leave. I didn't feel bad about it until the texts began. Fortunately, Richard and Rose and their kids are on my side, but Jane, John, and their 3 kids, all teenagers, my full biological siblings, plus my grandparents, all feel that Jane and John are owed an apology and a title of grandparent, as they're the reason I exist. They watched me grow up, tried to be there for me, and I snubbed them both as a teenager and when I got married. Am I the a-hole? I have spoken to them about why they gave me up, and they pretty much said we were finishing up our degrees and starting our lives post-university, and sure, we could have kept you, but it would have been so much harder for us. John and Jane wanted an open adoption, so Richard and Rose said they would keep it the same as my brother's adoption, where he typically saw his mom once or twice a month, as long as he actually wanted to see her. And she got updates if he didn't see her. But the issue there is that my brother's mom was a total stranger to them and never tried to challenge them, while John and Jane are very close relatives who pulled shit like this all the time when I was growing up. Since I was a teenager, I have reduced contact with them in a huge way, and I only see them 2 or 3 times a year now. But I'm thinking even that might be too much. It just annoys me that they didn't raise me, wouldn't even babysit me because it was too painful for them, but still felt like they should get to call themselves parents when it suits them. There were other times too, like when they got upset that I didn't get them tickets to my graduation. I was only allowed 4 and gave them to my parents and grandparents. Or when I was little, they would take me for days out to the cinema or the zoo or something and refer to me as their daughter. I have talked to them about it, but whenever I try to talk to them about it, they say that it's hard for them because they are my parents. But there's absolutely no consideration from them as to how hard it is for me. You're not the a-hole, OP. Jane and John, your biological parents, are inconsiderate a-holes. They gave you up because it was too hard for them, and that's understandable. But they also need to understand that their decision makes them your aunt and uncle, not your parents. Your biological parents signed up for this when they gave you away, so they need to stop acting all entitled and confused. Try and go for therapy for this, OP. It's very obvious that your biological parents' actions make you sad and affect you. I really hope you heal from this. Set a hard boundary with John and Jane. If they cross that boundary, go total no contact with them. They suck. Now for some comments. Not the a-hole. God, your biological parents seem horrible. They were in college, not high school, so they decided it was inconvenient to drop out of school to have a baby. They were not children with no way to take care of you. They are very lucky that Richard and Rose are such good people and that they allow them to see you. Their behavior at your wedding and with your child is narcissistic and appalling. They should absolutely defer to your wishes. If they don't want to do that, they can get effed and have no contact with your family. Oof, your comment about Jane and John not wanting to babysit you as a child makes the rest of the post make a lot more sense. Not the a-hole, definitely. I hope you can talk with them and let them know that, just as how they were not ready to be your parents, you are not ready to have them be grandparents to your child. I hope you don't cut them out entirely though. It sounds like they have matured a lot and want to love your child. Diminishing that will take away more from your kid than it will punish them, I think. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend that she's not allowed to ask me to do anything after a long day of work? Me, 32 male, and my girlfriend, 28 female, have been together for 4 years and are both residents, her in psychiatry, where she's working from home now, and I'm in medicine. We also just recently moved houses, so there's the added stress of that. We have recently been arguing a lot as I'm tired from working 12 plus hours per day and coming home to conversations about unimportant stuff like what interesting patient she had or what decoration we should get for the table. On top of that, she'll ask me to help take the trash out or load the dishwasher. Tasks I would normally be okay doing, but I'm just so tired nowadays. What she's claiming is that I can't be that tired to carry on simple conversations or help out with small tasks. She claims to do everything around the house like cooking, laundry, cleaning, but that's not entirely true because I help her build furniture, move heavy things around, etc. She says she wants me to contribute more and not just, quoting her words, come home and eat and plop my ass down on the sofa and go to sleep. From my perspective, I really am just that tired. I work 6 days a week and then on my one off day, I have to help her do stuff like build furniture, fix the fence and other things that she can't do by herself. And on top of that, she complains that we don't spend quality time together. So I have to go for walks with her and go out to eat when all I really want to do is fall asleep in front of the TV. So in order to stave off more arguments and whining from her, I suggested we make a rule that beyond a few minutes of conversation over dinner, she is not allowed to carry out long, protracted conversations with me about non-urgent stuff, and she is not allowed to ask me to do anything non-urgent as well, like take out the trash or do the dishes. She is basically sitting at home doing minimal work from 9 to 5 p.m. some days, and even has some half days off due to decreased patient volume, so I don't feel bad that she has to do most of the housework. Am I the a-hole about this rule and being too mean as she claims? Clarification, so it seems people missed the part where I say that I do help her with things. I just built a large piece of furniture with her last weekend on my only day off. Look, I'm just asking that she try to give me alone time when I get home from work, and that unless something urgent needs to be taken care of that she really can't do herself, if she can hold off the requests until my day off. You're an a-hole, OP. No, people didn't miss the part where you said you built a large piece of furniture with your girlfriend. You mentioned it multiple times already. And yes, even with that information, you're still an a-hole. I understand that you're busy after work, but telling your girlfriend to not talk to you, not call you to do minimal housework screams a-hole-ish, especially the part where you told her not to talk to you. It seems like you'll be happier if you come home to an empty apartment. I really hope your girlfriend sees this and ends the relationship. She deserves better. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for asking my brother to not have a switch while he lives with me? I, 29 female, live with my wife, 31 female, and 2 kids, 8 female and 10 male. My brother, 20 male, is staying with us for a few months as our mother, who he lived with, passed away recently, and he doesn't have the resources to live alone. He's not paying any rent, bills, food, expenses, etc. Because the idea of him living with us is he's saving up to move in with his girlfriend, so he needs a few months of just saving before he can afford to move out. Today he said he was going out, and to make conversation I asked where. He said he's going to Game, the shop, and he's planning on buying a Switch, so he and his girlfriend can try it out, and asked if he can have the living room TV, the smart TV, to try it out on because his TV is already hooked up to his PlayStation and he doesn't want to faff about with switching the consoles over. Herein lies the problem. He already has a PlayStation set up in the guest room where he's currently staying in. And when my kids, who don't have a console, saw it, they immediately asked to play with him. He said no because they were too young, which was fine because it is his console, and my wife and I don't particularly want them playing video games all day anyway. But I had a full day of the kids pouting when it happened, and they have been asking me and my wife to get them fairly regularly since then. We've not changed our answer, but they keep asking because they see and hear their uncle playing on his whenever they go by his room. My brother getting a Switch and then setting it up in the living room at a time when they aren't in school and are looking for distraction is the exact opposite of ideal, as both him and I don't want the kids using his video game consoles for different reasons, but still. I said, if you have to get a Switch, can you please use it in your room? I don't want the kids seeing it. He then said that he really wanted to use the smart TV in the living room. It was at this stage I said, look, could you just not get it? Focus on saving to move out, then get it once you have your own place. He then got upset with me and said it was just to keep him entertained and he wanted to get it, and then told me to stop mothering him and policing his spending. He's an adult and he'll spend his money how he wants before storming out. He came back with his Switch, set it up and started using it in the living room. The kids asked my brother if they could use it, and when he said no, my daughter got mopey, which I shut down. But after putting the kids to bed, my brother complained to me about my daughter's moping. And I said, what did you expect? I told you not to get it. He then tells me my kids and I are entitled because they asked to use his Switch. And I've got no right to be annoyed at him for spending his money how he wants. And tells me that mom was going to buy him one right before she passed, and laid on the guilt thick with that part. I now feel guilty and I'm second-guessing myself. Was I the arse? Because I didn't think I was at first, but now I'm less sure. Information. He reckons he has enough money to move now, but with everything going on, his plans have been delayed. Plus he's expected to get almost all of mom's money, a lot of money, and possibly her house when they're done with the will. So even if worst case scenario he has burnt through his money already, when he gets the inheritance, he's getting his own place. It's possible this is all to do with mom's death, but he won't talk to me about mom because mom and I haven't spoken since I came out. I was a teenager at the time, 16 or 17. I also told my kids they couldn't use his console because it's his console and he bought it and doesn't want them using it, and reminded them that they're not allowed to play video games regularly anyway. They're just too young. She pouted a bit, got a little mopey, and I told her to buck up. But she's 8, so of course she wants to play Mario with her uncle. Now for some comments. The dude is meant to be saving up, already has an entertainment system set in his room, and is making discretionary purchases for more consoles while not contributing to household expenses, and then is telling little children to F off and not play with his shit as he takes over the lounge TV and uses it in front of him. Your brother is an ungrateful a-hole that's just dumping on his family. Not the a-hole. Your house, your rules. I get it. He recently lost his mom. That is not a reason to install it in the living room. If he really could not wait till he moved in his own home, he absolutely could limit himself to using it solely in his room. As you were not on speaking terms with your mother, would she have supported such a behavior of his? If not, try to not rub it into him, especially in a big way that might cause a bigger hurt, just in case.